Welcome to the coffee table on this Sunday evening. We have a very, very interesting guest with Meher and myself, right? And we're going to talk about subjects. We're going to talk about one particular specific subject and its multiple dimensions. And that subject is jobs, right? We know we have a growing population. We know we have a youth bulge coming through. Estimations are that we need 1.4 million jobs every year. It's going to grow to 3.4 million jobs by 2030. And the other fact is that the government cannot fulfill and cannot create all these jobs. It just won't happen. We need less government rather than more government. So the guest we have today is a very good friend of mine, Nabeel Qadeer. So Nabeel has multiple dimensions to him, right? He is a graduate from FAST. You're a techie, right? Deep down at the core, right?
At the core, but a very low quality.
A very, okay. Is there a low quality text? And Nabeel was the prime mover shaker in the startup industry, in the whole ecosystem. He was the director of Plan 9, which was the first kind of incubator that came up in what, 2013?
2012.
2012.
Yeah.
So from there, you know, it kind of spawned other incubators to come. And I'm using the word spawn because it did create that desire to say, okay, we need to do things differently. It spawned co-working spaces now. Yeah. So whole culture is developing. So Nabeel, welcome to the coffee table.
Thank you very much.
It's all yours, right? So take us away, and Meher and I are first going to listen to you because you recently wrote an article in the Tribune, right? And the article was about job creation.
Yes, I did.
So please tell us.
So thank you for inviting me. It's a nice coffee table, nice panel.
I hope you like the coffee also.
It's lovely.
Or do you want a better blend?
It's my second coffee, so it's pretty good. You talked about 1.4 million jobs. I want to talk about the fact that when I was researching, I found out that in Pakistan's economy, we're producing about 1.4 million people who need jobs almost every year.
True.
And UNDP says the same. You need about 1.4 to 1.5 million people to come into jobs, and we need to create those jobs.
Right.
3.5 million people are unemployed every year.
Every year.
Who are willing to work.
That number is growing.
Yeah, and it's growing every year. If you take examples of countries like, I modeled it with Iceland, which is a very small country, 350,000 people. That's not even one of the
land of fire and ice.
The land of fire and ice, that, as they say. The unemployment rate there is less than 2%. I mean, almost 97% people are employed. They have a job. Right? That's a model country. Yeah, that's an ideal world, a very small country.
I've been watching Vikings on Netflix, right? And how Iceland was discovered.
It was discovered. Iceland is a strange story. I mean, it's not that simple. Now, compare that with Thailand. Also, both industries depend, both countries depend entirely on
tourism,
on tourism and hospitality. Both of them. Yet there's a difference. While both create jobs, the standard of living
is very different.
Is very different.
So the per capita income.
So per capita GDP, $70,000 for Iceland and $6,500.
See, I've read your article.
You've read my article. So just that, let's link it with Pakistan now. And that's the discussion we need to have, is why is it that Pakistan is lacking on both fronts? We're not creating jobs, and the standard of living is also extremely questionable. Now, here's where my industry comes in, and I'm a strong proponent of this, that as long as innovation and technology is not instilled in and deep-rooted into every segment and sector of the society, it becomes the foundation for every sector, whether it's agriculture, health, whatever, any mainstream traditional industry.
So every big problem we have is actually a very big opportunity.
It's a big opportunity.
So education, health, food.
So when I hear, and it's sad, our governments talk about technology and innovation as a separate unit.
Yeah, it should
and then
be
they say, it's not something that's of priority right now. Agriculture is. That's where they're going wrong. And that's what we need to say to them, that no, this is not how it works. I want to give you an example of Brazil. Brazil's agriculture produce has increased by 400% in 2 decades. When you research into why, they have invested heavily in R&D. They have invested heavily in startups that are doing agri-tech.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about Israel now. Another interesting example. Do you know we have a major water shortage problem in the country? Look how Israel has handled it.
But they have done it right from the beginning,
from
right?
The beginning,
the miracle of the desert.
But I want to talk about innovation.
And innovation is what
and how they brought into innovation.
It was innovation 50 years ago.
For them, yes. But the most interesting thing I read about them was that 80% of the water that is domestically wasted is reused and recycled for agriculture.
Yeah.
That has taken their water shortage problem and they've reduced it by about 50%.
Yeah.
So they are back to a very safe status where water shortage is not an issue. So they don't need to talk about dams as such anymore, like we do. So I would love for you to curate this conversation in whatever direction, but yes, my article was pointing out at what lacks. We talked about...
I wouldn't even dare try to curate it. Right? I've got a subject like you who can talk about it for hours.
I can just sit.
No.
Like a
I'm going to
statue,
come to you,
listening to your...
I know, I could
very
feel...
highbrow...
I could feel her straining and saying, when do I jump in? When do I get in?
No, I'm very interested to hear what you have to say.
I'll give you all the chances to jump in because I'm sure you know a lot about all the things that I'm going to talk about.
Look at the economy and...
See, Faisal Bhai, the problem is that we have an example in Huwat. You're talking about job creation, right?
Absolutely. I love that whole...
And this is where you will come in definitely, is that if you're talking about job creation and you're not going to talk about women inclusion, how can you expect a country to prosper? 49.6%, if I'm not wrong, of Pakistan's population is women. Under 30% is in the employment stream. And out of those 30%, 70%...
I'm surprised it's even 30%.
No, but here's the interesting bit. 70% of the 30% are blue-collar laborers.
True, that's true. Right at the bottom of the pyramid.
So there's hardly any room for women leaders or women getting really involved in the space.
Is it because we're not allowing that? We're not creating that space for them? We don't have acceptance at the C level, at the senior management level?
We can talk about the culture, and we should, but here's a very basic problem. The biological cycle does not match with the professional cycle, if I can put it this way.
Nabeel, isn't the nature of work changing?
Again,
I know. I'm just going to give this to you. Isn't the nature of work changing? The nature of work now dictates that you don't have to be physically present all the time to be able to do something.
And that is the way forward.
All right, now let's take it to Meher. Meher, you haven't really gone out to work, but you do work, right? You do a lot of work.
Yes, I write.
Right.
And
so writing is
that's a profession, of course.
You have to take out time to be able to do that. Now, you brought up your son all by yourself, right? He's gone off to college, right? And so that's, let's say, one task less.
I'm going to look at it from the perspective of a woman in Pakistani society, because obviously he's coming from a completely different school of thought. No, he's technical. What I mean is that he knows what he's talking about. He's actually presenting the problem and he's giving solutions, he's giving ideas. I'm just going to comment on this thing that I have seen this happen. When we were in college, I didn't really see a lot of women going into a professional life. Most of the women got married as soon as they graduated. I remember there was just one or two females who went abroad to study.
Why should marriage stop it cold?
It has changed. What I'm saying is that from the 80s, late 80s to now, everything has changed. Now I see that every female is being given an opportunity to study. It depends. It depends
not
where
every,
you. I'm not talking about out of school children. That is a reality. I know there are. What is it? 25 million,
22 million.
Because I have been writing about that too. Of course, there is there. But now, for instance, in my house, the woman who works in my house, it's about her daughter and her son getting an equal education. It's not even an issue. But on the other hand, I was talking to this woman who used to work for me once upon a time, and he said, only my brother went to school. She said, I wanted to go to school. This would be a woman in her 40s, and she said she wanted to go to school, but she wasn't allowed to go to school. But now, since she can't even write her name, it's very hard for somebody like her to start. She says, she tells me that her children suggests to her all the time that she should study, and I gave her an example of this 95-year-old woman in South India who just took some exam or something. So, of course, everything is changing, but that's something different. But I have seen women who are full-fledged doctors. They even specialized, and then they never worked.
They don't work.
And now one of them, a female doctor who is also a specialist, you know what she does? She designs clothes. There was this, so this is, I'm talking about upper middle class. Then there's this other female, went to one of the best schools in England, somebody from a very rich family. And then when I met her, she's in her late 20s, mid to late 20s, and I said, what I knew was she became a designer.
Right.
So she would make all these expensive clothes and sell them to women who can afford those expensive clothes. And I asked her, I said, why are
saying you've got to wear expensive clothes
I said,
so
why
I can
are
make
you?
money.
She seriously, she said, there is nothing for me to do. It's not that she was just, you know, sitting at home and complaining about it. Her father owned a very big company, and she said, you wouldn't believe it, but there is no job in my father's company for me. There is nothing that I can do. So I have seen this all around me, that there are women who want to work. I have a 24-year-old niece who wants to work, but when they go out to look for a job, there are no jobs.
Right.
And then we mock people. You know, we take words and we mock people. I'm not defending somebody from a political party or anything, but you know, when you start to mock Salai machine, you are actually taking away everything that female designers, your original designers think. Look at how Coco Chanel started. You know her history. Everybody who's in any kind of business knows how she started.
So,
Salai machines.
All I know is that
Sarah Lee.
All I know
Sarah
is
Lee is the biggest.
All I know is Coco was obsessed with sailors. All her designs were very nautical in the beginning.
You need to understand, she started making clothes when there was rationing of everything. So that classic Chanel jacket that you see, that, I mean, a normal average Pakistani would say, God, this is so ugly, because she didn't have a lot of material to play with.
We've got to stop her right there and come back to you.
Otherwise, fine.
You started talking about sailors. I'm talking about Sarah Lee.
We'll come to Sarah Lee.
I'll add to this that, and I was saying, I was mentioning Akhuwat as a model for microcredit.
Yeah.
And this is again where I want to link startups.
Yes.
This is where fintech comes in and how fintech can.
So fintech is financial inclusion.
It's financial inclusion for
making
real.
it easier for people, the unbanked.
It's just fancy to call it fintech.
Yeah.
So
we're talking about the unbanked, the people who don't have
unbanked. The cottage industry of Pakistan, I mean, about 70% of our country's economy is SME.
Yeah. SME also, you know, right down to the bottom.
Right down to the bottom.
Informal sector.
The informal sector. A lot of women do work there, and that's very unaccounted for.
Yeah.
If the government can take this seriously, where they can create conducive policies, where women and children...
So if you were to write that policy, what would be the 5 things that you would include?
That's exactly what I was going to ask. So let's talk in that way. Tell us, what should they do when you say there should be conducive policies?
Yeah.
What are those policies?
Let's have fun with this.
I'm going to take this question to education for a bit.
All right.
Right? So the first thing, if you've asked such a deep question, is because education is the foundation of any economy, any country, any society. So
human resource development.
The human resource development. So what do we need to do? We need, of course, the first thing we need is that we need to have a national consensus on a curriculum.
So curriculum, Hamad, if you can just write these down, curriculum is number 1. So we need one
national consensus, uniformity in curriculum.
In schools, state schools, private schools,
one curriculum.
Right, one curriculum.
Our Prime Minister says this and he's mocked, but one curriculum.
One curriculum.
It has to happen. Number 2, textbooks need to be rewritten.
Right.
If you go see a Punjab board textbook, it has spelling mistakes.
Okay, why don't I jump in here? Yeah. Why don't we leapfrog? Now, my whole thesis is, why do we have to have textbooks?
Okay.
Why can't we change the manner of learning? Right? Why can't we replace textbooks with, let's say, a tablet?
With M-learning and other things.
Yeah, the child can have a tablet for 3 years.
Books. Books. I like books.
Again,
I know. I love books too, but I'm talking about a totally different context.
I think it will be a very hard pill for the government and the bureaucracy to understand this, because people have tried it.
But we're talking about breaking the rules.
Well, that's the best case scenario.
And you're talking about a country where there is not a lot of connectivity.
All right, so
problem number 3. Number 3 that the government has to focus on is the quality of teachers. We need
quality of
teacher
teachers,
training.
Hamad.
Everything he's saying is
Teacher
something
training.
very close to.
In Pakistan, on average, when you talk about public schools, you would be amazed. And I have this, I did this research back in 2017, and it's one teacher catering to 1,200 students on average in a public school in Pakistan.
And not even turning up.
And not even turning up. So absenteeism is another issue, retention is another issue.
But the number, the sheer number that a teacher has to
isn't
be
even there.
But
Right.
Nabeel,
Lack of interest.
No, let me share another interesting stat here. So the number of teachers is actually almost the same as the number of soldiers. Right? Did you know this? It's about 1.2 million teachers across
That's what brings
Pakistan.
soldiers into this.
Right? But our population is that big.
It is that big.
Even these 1.2 million cannot really make that difference. So just hold that thought. We're going to come back. We're going to take a short break.
Great.
And we're going to come back.
Thank you.
So we're trying to, at least at our end, on this coffee table, come up with at least suggestions or something that we can set up for debate. So we want you to comment, we want you to pick it up, and we want you to take it forward also.
Yeah.
We'll be back after a break. Welcome back from the break. So we were talking to Nabeel, and Meher, of course, always has something to say about it. So we were talking about, what the government should be doing, and we said, okay, Nabeel, share 5 big ideas with us. So we had got to idea number 3.
And we're number 4 now.
Yeah, number 4.
So number 4 is invest on high on tech, high on research universities.
Okay, so high on tech, high on research, which leads to innovation, doing things in a different way,
Yes.
trying to solve problems at scale.
Specialized tech universities, engineering, good schools. I mean, we need IITs.
Yeah, we need IITs. So tell us about the IITs. Tell us about the journey of the IITs.
Let's hear the 5th one first.
Yeah. So the 5th one.
Then we'll go to IIT.
The 5th one, in my opinion, would be to do what India did really well. They invested on the right kind of PhD applicants, sent them abroad, created great partnerships with really good universities, ensured their journey in which they come back. And those are...
Isn't the HSC doing that?
Pathetically.
Pathetically? Okay.
Where are the results? Where is a high quality PhD who's impacted our society after coming back? What I am looking for is the way how PhDs in India are doing. They're coming back, they're building companies, and they're hiring people.
That's the difference, right?
That's the
difference. Our PhDs are just doing research, not commercializing.
But they have universities inside India.
No,
Yeah,
our
yeah.
universities.
Yes.
So because they've created such universities now, so it's not about universities. It's about sending your faculty.
It's about bringing that knowledge back in.
Bring the knowledge back, and then they convert it into commercially viable products.
Yeah.
They add to the economy. You can't have these extraordinary PhDs sitting in universities all their lives researching and writing papers that will never ever be practically implementable. They need to convert all of this into real products, real entrepreneurship. And that's what really good doctors in India and other countries are doing, which we're not.
You see, education, as you said, is very, very important. But in a country like Pakistan, of course, everybody should be literate. I hope very soon we'll be like Sri Lanka.
Did you realize you have a thumping presence on the coffee table?
I just move my hands a lot. It's not that I'm thumping. It's just that I will be moving my hands so much that once in a while I will be colliding.
You will be thumping.
I will be colliding into things around me. And
All right, so
it's just a mug.
You were saying
So
something
what I'm saying is that I see it as a long-term thing for a literate Pakistan to make a change. Before that happens, we have to concentrate on what we have. Start making people productive. Start, that small loan things. As I said, I don't have the technical lingo. All I can talk about, all I see is that there are a number of things that people can do. For instance, this education thing, I wanted to speak to somebody in the government about this during Shehbaz Sharif's government, and I'm still trying to convey this to people in the PTI government that, for instance, they talk about the fact that education, the standard of education is very low in Pakistan, and then you keep talking about how many young people from very good universities, and I'm not even talking about the low-income backgrounds, people of all classes are unemployed. If they are not working in their father's companies, they are unemployed. They can't find jobs. Even if it's not a long-term thing, even if it's not a career that is going to be, that is going to be a lifelong career, get people, young people, to be involved in
doing
changing
something.
the entire pattern of education in Pakistan. Get them involved, give them jobs. Even
But
if
isn't that what we talk about when we say
even if they are
entrepreneurship?
temporary jobs.
We are.
It's like what they did, for instance.
Why temporary jobs? Yeah, why not doing something? These are privileged people. They've been to college and university, 14, 16 years of education.
You have to change. Once upon a time, people became teachers because they wanted to teach. Now, most people become teachers because they have nothing else to do. They have nothing better to do.
So you're saying the state schools,
not just state schools, take all these young men and women in their 20s, even in their 30s, anybody who's unemployed, who's looking for a job, give them some kind of motivation and make them the government. It has to come from the government because you and I can't do it. We can't say, okay, let's form a group.
No, but again, we are expecting the government to provide all this employment. That's not going to happen.
No, it's because they are already doing a lot of things in this sector. They are making changes.
Here's an opinion.
I'm not saying each and every job has to come from the government. You're right.
Agreed. I mean, for me, frankly, I don't know if it's politically correct to say this, but I'm a big proponent of.
We are politically incorrect. This is the coffee table. You drink coffee and you are politically incorrect.
So
here's to that.
He was the best choice, and alhamdulillah, we have a prime minister who. So when you say government, for me, it's Imran Khan. So he can get it done.
The chief executive of the country.
The chief executive. This is the CEO.
The CEO.
He is the one.
The buck stops there.
The buck stops there. It starts there, stops there. So for me, when he talked about the desi andas, the murgis and the kattas, that's the best thing he's said to date in these 6 months.
Yeah. That's very real, actually.
He's a real guy. And I'm going to talk about complexes on social media, but
can we talk about his?
We should. Depending on how much Faisal allows us to. But here's the thing. Let me give you a stat again. 12 million households in Pakistan get directly affected by the kind of crop that grows in a certain season.
Yeah, that's true.
About 4 to 6 million.
So they're the ones who are growing, and they're the ones. They're part of the
households. I'm not talking people.
Households.
5 to 10 people per household.
Yeah.
About 4 to 6
million. We're talking about
million.
60 to 70 million people.
About 4 to 6 million people get directly households get directly impacted by the quality of livestock that exists in Pakistan. That makes it about how many? 100 million people?
100 million
half
people.
The population?
Yeah.
Your Prime Minister just talked about fixing the problems with half the population.
Absolutely.
In simple words, what do you expect the Prime Minister to do? Give a financial policy and a model? He can't. He has to speak in the language of a common man, which he did.
We shouldn't talk in fuzzy numbers.
But that's the thing, when a Prime Minister talks, he has to talk about the macro and the micro. Yeah. He will be talking about big, complicated changes that are going to...
This Prime Minister wears leather jackets when he receives foreign dignitaries.
I
love that about him.
That I have an issue with. No, I'm going to send an email.
I love my Prime Minister to be a biker.
I'm going to send an email to his office that they should take his leather jackets, put them on padded hangers and just lock them in a cupboard without a key for the next 5 years. I don't have an issue with him wearing shalwar kameez, but no.
Justin Trudeau can do anything and be anybody.
No, but he wears a suit.
Nobody has a problem.
He wears a suit and coloured socks. So he can wear, Imran Khan can wear a shalwar kameez and a red jacket. I don't have an issue with that, but it has to, okay. You've confused me.
That's my job.
So he's talking about the macro and the micro. They will be talking about how they're going to fix the economy, where people like him and the economists and the finance ministers and the analysts and the advisors come in. That's a completely different thing. They know you cannot change a nuclear country on the basis of what you're going to do with the andas and the kattas.
Yes.
But coming from an agricultural background,
I'm going to pick the USSR came apart not because they ran out of nuclear weapons. They came apart because their economy couldn't sustain
because they didn't have
the pressure. Because they didn't have those good grain harvests.
I come from a feudal background. I come from a village.
Now you tell us, right? And we thought she's just being...
bada time guzarya na pinda, so we know. So other than that we are an agriculture-based country and economy and so on and so forth. What I don't just look at the facts. We eat andas every day. I'm looking at it from a layman's point of view.
I was educated last night by a poultry farmer also.
Just imagine कि आप लोग how many andas we eat every day.
Well, I can tell you.
More than a crore.
Easily.
Easily. So how do you not say that that can be turned into a huge business? For instance, if that...
Of course it can be turned into
what we were talking about, what I said about the Salai machine. A Salai machine does not mean that you can have one Salai machine and then expect to become a millionaire. But little things cannot be mocked and little things cannot be trivialized in a country where there is... Other than a particular class, most people do not even have good quality food. You have to inspire people that, I haven't seen the movie, but Anushka Sharma just made a movie called Sui Dhaga. And it is about, it's a true story of a couple who get into this. She actually works on a Salai machine and how they, from there and there, you know, there are different steps and how they turn it into a big business. As I was talking about my favorite Sarah.
So nothing is too trivial, right? We know that we have a huge problem coming up, right? Which is the size of our population, the growing population, and the need to have them gainfully employed or part of the economic mainstream in one way or the other. So either it's jobs or it's doing something, innovating, entrepreneurship, even at the bottom level, going back to the whole model, right, of giving people who want to do something that little bit of finance for them to get going, right? So that works, and it has worked.
It has worked.
So from what I remember, 3.2 million people have been empowered in that manner by Khuwat. 75 billion rupees have been lent.
What they did in Bangladesh.
With Grameen,
and
that model.
I said it has worked.
About 50% of them are women, right, who are taking these micro loans and work. Khuwat's model is actually even better than Grameen's.
Okay.
Right?
Yes,
so,
it is.
Yeah, it is a better model. Because this is 0%.
It's no interest, it's without interest.
And the price of admin, you know, the document is 300 rupees. So that's all you need to actually spend.
So again, we need to stop trivializing things. We need to stop mocking people for everything they are trying to do.
So let 1,000 ideas bloom, right? Let people have 1,000,000 ideas. The ones that have any merit to them will continue. Right? And each one of these entrepreneurs at every level, like you said, the cottage industry, the SMEs, the small, the micros, they will change things around, right? Even if one micro employs 2 people, I open a tea stall, I'd employ 2 kids, right? And, you know, I've created 2 jobs.
Sorry to interrupt you here. I want you to talk about this. Talk about all of what you're talking about, you know, the technical stuff that you write about or talk about. Break it down into terms that, for instance, anybody
can understand.
Okay. I'm not saying people, obviously people who understand English language would be watching this show, but even a simple housewife, even a simple man who's not very, you know, clued into what's happening in the world, tell them about this, you know, when you use the word entrepreneurship or when you say SME or all these words. I do believe that you should be, all of us, not when you're talking the way you should be talking, when you're presenting a certain point of view. एक बात तो करने दो ना, तो उसमें उस jargon में उसका कि जिसकी that people can understand.
So
वो हमें बताएं.
देखिए, in simpler words, I mean, for me, now when you're talking about keeping it completely simple, let me tell you that I have, and I'm amongst a few people who've in the past 6 years, I've traveled to over 80 to 90 universities across Pakistan. And this includes from Kashmir to Karachi, includes Sakhar, interior Sindh, Quetta. I have spoken to young people just to understand how they're thinking, what they're thinking. I was working with the government. I thought I'll be able to do great things with that government, but there were constraints and there's lack of understanding. But you know what turns out to be the biggest problem, and this is going to be completely off topic. We need to, as a nation, and if there are housewives listening to me, and mothers and sisters and even kids and boys and girls, we need to aggressively work on raising our esteem as a nation. We've been made, we were a colony. Let's not forget that. The remnants of which still show in generations. We are followers. We like to follow perceptions. We do not like to create perceptions. This is a very big problem. For a country to be entrepreneurial, or in simpler words, to be able to be a country where you can, every second house has the ability to create some or add to the economy in some form or shape, whether it's 10 rupees or 100 rupees. You need to have belief in what you are. You need to understand the importance of self-reflection. We as a nation do not understand that we need to first find ourselves to then go out there and present ourselves to others.
That's a bit of Baba Bulleh Shah.
That's a bit of Baba Bulleh Shah, but the problem is...
No, so what do you think is lacking?
The thing that is lacking is...
when you say self-reflection, what should people be doing?
It's
to start... simple as believe in yourself.
It's to start questioning. Questioning the status quo.
Question the questions. I always say you have to question the questions.
And you have to, and frankly, I mean, I don't know how much you've traveled
that's a very good one,
across the GT road.
But we elect people.
That's where I'm going.
But we never go back to question them. We never go back to our MPA, MLA.
This is telepathic. Yeah. I mean, I was going to GT road, so I'm going to come to the elections. So I want to understand last time around, I'm a proponent of this government. And I was working with the other government. So imagine the dichotomy. So I got the chance to go through GT road, and I want to understand, because I'm Punjabi by default. So I want to understand how we think.
That's not really a sin. Hold this one, but I'm just going to take a break. We're going to come back to the GT road.
Punjabi by default.
Right? Yeah. And you will not say, "Mujhe kyun nikala?" when we talk about the GT road.
Ki baat.
Not that this is an apolitical show, so we're just talking about popular conversations. So we'll take a short break. We'll come back with Nabeel and the GT road and what being Pakistani really means.
We can't. It's so interesting.
Welcome back from the break. Nabeel was taking us on a very interesting journey down the GT road or up the GT road. Right? So before we go there, we were having a conversation offline also. And the question came up, what really is entrepreneurship? So my definition of entrepreneurship, which I share, is entrepreneurs are problem solvers, right? They look at a problem, and they look at the problem not just as a problem, but as an opportunity, if they have the solution for it. So that is really what entrepreneurship is at any level. So on to you and back to the GT road.
That, and when you are solving that problem, find a commercially viable model to do it. So you make money for yourself, for your household, and for the society. That's entrepreneurship.
Let's go back to GT road.
GT road. So when I was going down GT road, and I tried to understand how our political system works and how young people vote. You will be amazed, and unfortunately it was a sad revelation. I mean, I surveyed about 120 young people from different cities, who I actually sat down and spoke to over a cup of tea. Both genders. Very few women, I mean, I'd say 20, 30 women in total, but more, that was still a number. It's still their parents
who decide
their affiliation.
Are you serious?
It's still that. A part of it is that. A part of it is that, yes, I know this new guy is going to do something nice, but
my father is saying vote for
my father, my uncle, we have this affiliation. When we had that case solved by one of the MPAs from a particular party, they come back and say, remember,
so
7 years ago,
that's the biradri,
that's the biradrism, and that's the rakh rakhao wala problem and all those things. We can't say no to them now.
Let's be honest. They don't vote for parties.
Let's be very
honest.
They
vote for the individual who's standing in that particular
Let's be very honest. It's about individual benefit.
Yes.
Right? Yes. He went to the Thana with my father to solve that problem.
Someone fixed a sewerage problem in my area.
That's a big problem. I was not getting into the college, and he was able to get me to college. Right. So I look at it in a very individual manner. Right? You feudals have done this to us. Right? He talked about colonization, right? And I'm going to talk about feudalism.
In my village, this time,
I love this, my village.
There was, actually, the villages, the two villages I belong to, both my parents are Tarids, and both villages actually have the name Tarid, so they are like our village.
Can you get more feudal than that? You can't.
But it's one of my cousins who was actually in the last government, she was a minister, she lost. So people, you can't really say that people are not becoming increasingly aware.
They are.
Now I have noticed this only twice. I'm not going to talk about Zulfikar Ali Bhutto's elections since I was very little, and that's also you know, telling people how old I am. But I remember it happened in 2007, 2008, after Benazir Bhutto's very, very tragic assassination. For the first time, what happened was what you see in movies, that a party came into power because of the sympathy vote, because everybody voted for Pakistan People's Party. Okay, not everybody, but a lot of people. This is something that has happened again. This is not a political comment. This is simply a reflection of how people have started to look at everything around them. There is a growing awareness. We need to stop insulting. We need to stop undermining the opinion of people who are the majority of Pakistan. I find it very condescending when all these people make comments about the unfairness of elections, or the elections being rigged. I'm not talking about this election, all the elections, because we make it a point to insult the majority of Pakistan that votes. They belong to a certain class. I see a lot of, I see
Look,
many
a voter
people,
is a voter, right?
And
Irrespective.
they insult their mandate. When they say, yes, there are a lot of irregularities, there are a lot of things that should change. There have been unfair ways of doing things in Pakistan, pre-election, mid-election, after election. But what we need to see is I'm going to take it back to what he was saying. We need to start giving importance to what we think, what we are. His vote, her vote, my vote, your vote. It is all connected to how we are as a society,
right.
How we look at professions, how we look at work.
Okay, so let's go back there. I was just thinking, you know, historically, there have been these professions like she's just said, right? There were the carpenters, there were the let's say shoemakers, there were the people who weave textiles and all that, and these are like skills, right? And there were castes and there were tribes and there were people who would do just that. The Araim was always a farmer, right? The Gujar was always a dairy farmer, right? So that defined them. Now there are lines which are being crossed, right? So there's crossing of lines. You mentioned your journey down the GT road and meeting 130 young people, talking to them. But there is the other side, the Human Resource Development Report that was recently done, right? With Dr. Adil Najam involved in it and all. So he shared a very interesting snippet from that. And he said, till 2045, every election is going to be decided by new voters.
By youth. By the youth.
By new voters, not just the ones who voted before, but the new voters, because the bulge is growing. It will continue to grow right up to 2045.
See, that's hence a larger need for them to become more responsible. Or why have I invested about 7 to 8 years now in this quest to promote entrepreneurs and small businesses? It's because I believe that a country like ours that has several problems, both political, social, economic, all of them combined, and our strategic location is also pretty tricky. So there's a lot of national interest in our country. So the young people, they must take control of their lives now. They can't, they shouldn't be driven. They shouldn't be driven by, and I'm going to go as far as saying, even by their parents. They need to take their own decisions now. And because every 10 years, the economy, the way the economy works is changing. We used to say...
Challenges change, you need to have a different approach.
We used to say that it's the era of globalization. Not anymore.
It's globalization now.
It's actually an era of, in my opinion...
Local is the new global.
It's more GVCs now. It's global supply chains, which is why the importance of CPEC and corridors and all this that's happening. It's a very important opportunity. $62 billion worth of projects will be set up in our country.
Do we have the capacity to actually exploit them?
No, we don't.
No, we don't.
But if we invest now in our youth,
absolutely,
people who are not in the mainstream job market yet, they're studying.
So this is idea arbon ka, and you do idea karodon ka.
I do idea karodon ka for the recent president.
How's that experience been? You've done 3 seasons now?
I've done 3 seasons.
And if I remember correctly, 170 million have been committed in season 3. That's a pretty big number. And it's grown since season 2.
Faisal bhai, what idea karodon ka has done, and you've been both a critic and a supporter. I say in everything in life, is work in progress. You cannot ever produce the perfect picture.
Of course you
right?
can't. Done is better than perfect.
Done is, and that's what you said to me last year, so season 1. When I was mocked like crazy for doing a show where investments just happen in 10 minutes. I was trying to create a belief system in a common man, that if you're a young boy or a girl,
and you have an idea,
come on television.
It's worth 10 million.
It's worth 10 million.
That's what I have been trying to say, and that's what I'm going to say again. We need to stop mocking people. We need to stop taking ourselves so seriously and taking everybody else so lightly that whatever they say, bachche ne kuch ka, oh Allah, I mean, be realistic. Some young person comes up with another idea and that is mocked. For instance, you know, if a child if a teenager comes to you and says, I'm going to work in people's gardens in the summer to earn some money, we will mock him or her, because that doesn't happen in Pakistan. So everything what he said, that people
were... you interrupt her and pick it up.
People were... That's so patriarchal.
How is patriarchal?
I wouldn't do that.
It's a one-on-one.
So I should get an equal amount of time. I'm not going to do this. Let you do this. Get away with this. Let's have a talk about this. Let's create an environment of fairness.
All right, we've got to have a stopwatch so we can...
Yes. You are going to stop looking at him and also start taking me seriously in this serious discussion.
Yes. Of course I am.
So I'm going to glare at you for the next 30 seconds.
I will not do that.
Look at him. These attitudes need to change. Now people are going to say that, look, there was a show. There were these two gentlemen sitting, and there was a woman who was just sitting like a prop, and she was not...
Meher Tarar is not a prop.
No,
Hardly, right?
So I have a story for that too. Once you're done, regarding
for being a prop,
again, women as a prop, and how I question that.
We're not going to.
No, I'm going to talk about that.
I want you to talk more about this, because, as I said, you people are in a position where you can actually affect a change.
Yes.
Both of you are working with young people. Both of you are working with people who are starting businesses, who want to do something in life. But I just want to say one thing, it should be inclusive. I feel whenever you use these words, what I said earlier, I feel most people around us, which is the majority of Pakistan, they always feel excluded. When you're talking about the work you do or the work he's doing, I'm sure there are multiple dimensions to what he's doing, but superficially. It just seems that he's talking or catering to a certain class of people. So let's make
really.
No, I know.
But that's the message
I said
that goes out.
I started with a disclaimer that this is the impression that people get, that okay, they're talking about things that, for instance, the guy who works in my house, one day he said to me, I want to start a small business. I said, wonderful. He said, this is what I and another person working in somebody's house, we have decided that while we are working here, we are also going to start a small business. And I said, that's amazing. Of course, after mocking him, because, you know, we are not in a bad sense. We treat them like human beings. But of course, we all mock. We mock people.
I've been mocked, so at the risk of man-interrupting,
and I'm going to continue.
I don't like these terms. Mansplaining and interrupt me anytime you think I'm...
You're saying all the right things, and I feel that had you known what my show does, that would have been, you would have been happy. So when I built this show, the name was Idea Karodon Ka. Right?
Tell us where the show is so we can watch it.
It's another channel. So I don't know if I can name the channel.
You can.
Of course.
It's on Neo TV. Okay. So I'm very close to the owner of Neo TV. We're very
You're
good
also
friends.
the CIO for the Superior Group.
For the group as well. The group owns that channel too. So very interesting stories on how there's this one angle of whether the show is produced well or edited well. That's another story.
Sure, that's a technical
But the biggest story is getting that 1 hour slot for young people from common households.
That's so wonderful.
These are kids who have no influential dads and moms.
Yeah, they don't.
And I have tried in my humble capacity to keep it extremely open.
Egalitarian.
Well done.
And I've brought in kids from South Waziristan. They've raised money on my show. I've brought a kid from Parachanar. He raised 4 crores and he's received 2 crores.
Wow.
That's Lala,
from Shahida. Parachanar.
Yeah.
So I've tried to go all over the country because from learning from my experiences of going to universities and had made this show. But
the Naeem Zamindar, you got to cough up your
and he's walking the
20
talk.
billion.
Wonderful.
And so one of my, I mean,
so happy to hear that.
It's impacting in a different manner. So when I walk into some mall now, interestingly enough, when people ask me for a selfie because they know me from television, it's usually young boys and girls.
It's also because you're very good looking.
That's something I can't do much about, and I'm not.
See again,
so
men praising men.
But let me tell you something.
I'm going to take a selfie with him too.
So the most beautiful part in all of this little 2 hours of fame is that when I go into the Liberty Market parking lot, the guy selling the tickets knows me.
Yeah. Yeah, he's watching.
My show is watched by SEC, B and C.
So I'm so glad he's doing what I said he should do. I'm so happy I'm so sorry to be so ignorant.
No, but that's the beautiful, because thank you for asking that question. That's the impact. Hence, the whole idea of 170 million being committed and all that, it's beautiful. It's good for marketing.
Yeah.
But the real impact is,
I agree.
I think in my own humble way, I am instilling a bit of hope in a common man watching me. There's a story of a kid who comes with this son halwa for me one day. And he had to wait outside because, unfortunately, it's a media thing, so we have a security and all that. So he had to wait 2 hours to meet me. When he came up, he was motivated. He comes and I took a picture of that and put it up on my social media. It was son halwa from his mother. And I mean, I hardly... yeah. It was about a year ago. So, khatam ho gaya. But he had tears in his eyes when he was talking to me. When he looked at me, I felt like I'm some...
Because normally you're not, one would consider you inaccessible.
Inaccessible. And the thing is that, look what he told me. He said, my mom sent this for you because I had been trying to convince them to start a small tire business, tire selling business for 2 years. They said, no, go work in the school you're working in because you need that salary. I showed my mom and dad your show twice.
And they said, go do what you want.
I'll give you 20,000 rupees, go start it.
Go fulfill your dream.
And now I have this little place where I redo tires, I resell tires.
Yeah.
So this is a small gesture from my mother. I said, I want to meet your mother. So I went to Multan and met her mother, his mother, and took a picture with her. Small story. But if this can be done at a larger scale by better people, I'm not even a media person.
Hey, listen, everybody
I'm going to interrupt him here and I'm going to praise him right now.
We have a couple of minutes.
As I said, I'm sorry, I was ignorant of who you are because this is the first time, second time that I've appeared on this show. I should have done my homework. But I'm so happy to see that somebody's actually doing what he says, what he talks about.
I'm trying to.
You're walking the talk, you're actually setting an example. You're involved. You're committed to what you say on television. It's not just words. So wonderful.
Because
of you, I met him.
The whole idea of this of the show today, right, was to get you on, to get you to talk about, right, the whole perspective of job creation, innovation, using technology for scale to solve problems. So I'm going to let you put it all together now in 60 seconds.
So summing it up, it's. Pakistan's biggest problem is creating more jobs for the youth. It's the youth of this country who will, inshallah, change the fate of our country. There's no doubt about that. All our government policies, all our corporate policies, all of the things that we do as a nation, we should all get together to push the youth align them towards one goal, and that's economic strength. Our youth needs to focus on economic strength, and that can come in faster if we use the power of innovation and technology to do it.
Okay.
Starting with education.
Meher, you promise you're not going to beat me up off camera? Right?
I'm going to be nicer.
You're going to be nicer. So I'm going to close the show here. Nabeel, I mean, I've known Nabeel for at least 4 years, 5 years now, and I know the kind of work he's been doing.
Be precise.
5 years, 5 years, right?
Round it off.
Yes. So what he's talking about is actually what he's been doing, and he's actually demonstrated that it is all possible if we align ourselves and we have a very clear path ahead of us, and we decide that we're going to do something, each one of us, it will happen. Nabeel, so much for coming. We're going to have more conversations. We're going to have you come and talk a little more about all the other things you're doing. Right?
Always here for you, sir.
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
Thank you
so much. Next time he can give us stories.
Yes. So thank you very much for being with us today. We will continue to talk about various things. Write to us, comment on the show, and let us know what you like and what you don't like. Thank you very much.